All right, friends, welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. In this series, we continue on defending the various different cities and castles in Bannerlord. We're going to use tactics for this whole series and essentially show you the recipe for how you can successfully defend these various different models. Today, we're going to focus on Veron Castle, and both sides here, I'll just show you a few of these troops here, have tier 3 and above units. So we have an equal strength army as far as the quality of the units on the field. We're facing Britannia, so they'll have the Fiend Champs and all these other elite high-end units, but we're going to go ahead and outnumber our army here 3-1. So Britannia has fully 1,000 units here sieging our simulated castle. We'll give them a couple of siege towers. We've got a catapult, kind of a realistic scenario you might face in your game. Now, we're going to do this first example is we're going to let the sergeant bumble through this, and then we will come in and I will show you essentially the winning recipe to how you can defend this castle in your own campaign. Again, we must defend the walls and not let the enemy inside. So we have Socrates here. Socrates is our philosopher, some brilliant strategy here. And you can see already the failed problem that the enemy is pursuing here. They're trying to stop 500 Fiend Champs from killing your archers on the walls. Now, the only good thing that they're doing is their siege catapult is hammering the Fiend Champs. However, these archers on the walls have absolutely no chance, right? They're getting fucking ripped apart on the walls because they don't take cover. And of course, the Fiend Champs are probably the best archer in the game. Not probably, they are the best archer. Now, as the siege towers get closer, this pathetic AI will try to defend these siege towers with infantry, but this infantry on the wall has the same chance that I do with Natalie Portman. 0. It's just getting exterminated by javelins, arrows. Before the enemy even gets to the wall, most of the defenders there are annihilated. Now, of course, the ram reaches the wall. The allied forces here are already routing. You can hear him yelling, "I don't care!" The enemy now pursues. Actually, they lost one of the siege towers. They were able to destroy one of the siege towers. They now pursue the other siege tower vigorously. They're going to blast through the front door. And in this first example, I don't even know if the AI here is going to kill 1-1. In other words, they're not even going to kill a third of the enemy force here. The only reason they're doing any good killing here is because of the catapults. The troops are being exterminated. I would estimate that 70 or 80% of the kills that the defenders here are getting are catapults, right? That's another shot right there. These two guys right here, give these guys a medal. These guys are doing great work, but the rest of the defenders here got absolutely pulverized. And of course, defeat on your screen here. They just get roasted, even though this castle is the best castle, I think, in the game to defend. And unfortunately, I think this is so easy that I want to give a disclaimer. Literally, before we get too far into this, this might ruin it for you guys here. What I mean by that is this may make it so easy to defend this castle that you feel like you have a cheat code. So that disclaimer aside, let me show you how to set this up. Now, none of this is cheating. This is just using the game mechanics, and there's really nothing the AI or a human player could do to overcome what we're going to set up here. So we're going to set up 5 different archer divisions. It's actually going to be 6 because a few are going to be hybridized. The second will be a mix of infantry and archers, and I want them to have shields. That way they can play offense on the ground if need be. They'll be foot troops. The 4th division is also going to have a few infantry. That's because we're going to put them on this wall, and I'll show you that in just a second. You want to make your divisions first. In other words, separate your divisions. The first division will be high-end shield spear infantry. That way it's a lot of legionnaires and elite cataphract and stuff like that because their job is critical. They're going to hold the gate. They're going to receive the biggest onslaught in this battle. The 3rd Corps is kind of a mix of skirmishers, shock troops and shield infantry. They're going to be a blocking unit as well. They will guard one of these 2 stairways, probably the right if we can destroy a siege tower. The 2nd Corps, again, will be down in the courtyard. And the 4th, what we want to do with the 4th Division, change some of these numbers here. And I would follow these numbers, and I'll explain in a second. You want the 2nd Division to provide enfilade fire from that left side. So the 4th, I'm just putting in a line here. That way they're halfway down the stairs. You see how half those guys are actually down the stairs shooting at the enemy. The 5th and 6th Corps are going to be the gate killers. They're going to be the guys firing down against anybody that comes through the gate. And you do that in line formation. That way they're on those stairs firing downhill, really wreaking havoc with the enemy. The 3rd Corps will be used as an attacking division, but also in a square to cover that ladder over there. That is because the enemy will probably get a siege tower over there, and then these archers here, the 7th and the 8th can shoot both the guys at the door and the guys coming up the siege tower here. And like I said, the enemy they might as well siege hell here. They have a 0.0% chance of succeeding. To be perfectly honest, I have done this keep defense outnumbered 20-1, and we have still succeeded. I'm not exaggerating, 20-1, we still won. So you should have no problem defending with three times the amount of enemy forces attacking here. 3-1 is like a walk in the park here. Now we are focusing our fire catapult on this siege tower over here. That said, you can still defend this, even if there's both siege towers arrive at the walls. Now we're actually going to target some of the other troops here because that siege tower is close to death. It's basically got one little tiny red health bar left, so we're going to try to kill a few of these other troops. But honestly, not a lot of this is that important. This would only be important if you were facing a huge force. Maybe you're outnumbered 7-1, right? And there's 1,400 and you got 200. Then I would advise using these fire catapults to really scorch the enemy. Here, just point blank, we can get rid of this siege tower. Kaboom, there it goes. And we can get a few more shots off here. But honestly, like I said, we could just get in the courtyard. In fact, getting shot over here, we'll throw a few of these fireballs as the enemy comes up, but it really doesn't matter. You're going to see in a minute why it doesn't matter. The enemy is basically in a killing pen in this castle. Because of the slopes, because of all the angles, we have these archers so well positioned that nobody could take this castle in this scenario. Now the first division is holding the gate, and you want it slightly offset. That way the enemy comes in, but doesn't get completely blocked by the square. Same thing here. We're moving that square so it's slightly up those stairs. I actually want those guys on the stairs. That way, as the enemy comes down there, they get scorched with arrows. Right? They're visible to our archers, and you can hear all these guys clicking away. Almost every single one of them is shooting. Now that square at the gate, it's critical. You want it to be slightly ajar so that the enemy can come through the gate but not flood through. If you find yourself in a situation where they're flooding through, move that square so that it covers more of the gate. It's basically like a valve to your garden hose. You can have more enemies or less just by flicking the valve one way or the other. You can open it up a little bit more, but it really doesn't matter. This siege is already over, and the only way you need to know that is the enemy can't get over here. They're being blocked by this square. They're being scorched with archers. If they come out of either of these two doors down here, they're scorched. Now, you have this second division over here that we'll charge with if necessary, right? There's some Manavliatons in there. But this siege, I was going to say this siege is over. It actually is over. And that's what I mean, right? This is normal damage, no mods here, and a 50-something to 1 kill ratio. It borders on the absurd. And apologies, again, if I just ruined Bannerlord siege defense for you. That's how easy it is if you have the right troop makeup and tactics. Now, if you're wondering what the hell I'm wandering back here for, I'm actually going to add one more segment to this episode. What happens if you get a blowout at the gate? What happens if the enemy starts pouring through? I'm kind of looking at these different angles right now. I'm scouting, doing some reconnaissance here, just like Napoleon before the Battle of Austerlitz, because we're going to try this battle in a different manner. So give me a second here and we'll set this up. All right, so let's go ahead and give this a try here. We're going to try the level 3 walls, and notice I've changed to Britannia here. That's because, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't able to pull off the example I was hoping to show you with the Imperials. The archers, and especially the nasty javelin throwers of Britannia, just proved too much. So we're going to reverse the roles here. We will defend with Britannia in all the same circumstances, outnumbered 3-1 in Veron Castle. Now, why am I showing you this again, right? You just saw this. Doesn't make any sense. You already learned how to completely annihilate the enemy. I want to show you a secondary defense here. Let's say you botch part of that previous operation. Let's say your square breaks down. Look at all these amazing defensive structures that are part of this castle. Now, we're not probably going to use these intricate little stairways and stuff like that. You can get guys on the roof, but we will use some of these back angles because what we're going to simulate again is that the square at the gate gets blown open. There's a couple different ways we can simulate that. One, we can just have these guys retreat or pull back mid-battle. Now we're going to set up the rest of the units very similarly to how we set up the last battle, right? Because you can't have a totally different setup for this second battle. Obviously, you'd be like sort of preempting the maneuvers that we're going to make. So very similar, right? The 4th, again, will be a mix, archers and infantry, and they will be on this left side holding the walls. The reason you're putting infantry with archers on the left side here is in case the enemy gets a siege tower or ladders over there. Those infantry help protect the archers you put on the walls. This is one of the few examples where archers can be on the walls because the enemy just can't get good line of sight. All the other units, the 4th, 5th, maybe we won't do an A tier just for simplicity's sake. I don't want to confuse you. Let's just do the 5th again, just like that, and then the 6th like that, and then the 7th. Instead of having 2 divisions over here, we'll put the 8th, or excuse me, the 7th. Now there's lots of Fiend champs in that 7th, and the 7th is going to be, we're basically going to scuttle that division during the battle. The 3rd and the 4th goes up here. And we will play this siege very much like the first one for the first minute or so here. Again, you can see these archers are nicely spread out. Put the commander in the 1st division. That doesn't matter too much. And I'm still going to use the siege. In other words, we're going to, this first minute or two will be a simulation, again, of the same kind of defense. And only this, in this example here, we are going to simulate what you can do if there's a blowout at the gate. And what do I mean by that? You got your square there. Let's say the enemy behavior is weird and they run past the gate. All of a sudden, they're mobbing all your units in the courtyard. Or another thing that happens. Let's say your square gets blown up. Right? There's a huge enemy assault. Your square, maybe the units in there aren't very strong. You might be doing this defense with militia. Whatever the reason, we're going to simulate that the enemy blows open our defenses and is rampaging in the courtyard. What then, right? In most scenarios, you're fucked. I'm going to show you in this castle, I think. I just failed with this trying with the Imperials. I think with Britannia we'll be successful. Now, this is a highly unorthodox tactic, and it's complicated, so I might botch this, but we'll see. Of course, if you're watching, you know, there's probably something worthwhile. I narrated the one where we failed with the Imperials. We were very close. My character died. We had like 30 or 40 Britannians assaulting our units at the very end of the battle, but I'm not going to bother showing you that. We'll just skip straight to this one. All right, so these archers, oh shit, gravity's more difficult on 3x speed. Those archers are jammed up pretty good, and these archers here need to be spread more. They've still got to fire down at the gatehouse. All right, so the first, like I said, the first 60 seconds of this is all going to be very familiar. The big thing to understand is that in a situation where you get a breach, the first thing I recommend is shoving a square directly into the door. That way the flood of enemies slows down, right? You see those guys pouring through there. If this is a normal situation where there's enemies pouring everywhere and you have an infantry division that you can put there in a square, do so. That'll stop the flood, and then you can clean up. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to start grabbing some divisions and pulling them my way. I'm going to back the squares up here, right? Basically letting the enemy into the courtyard. We're going to kind of simulate that the courtyard gets blown open here. Now what to do, right? Hundreds of enemy troops start pouring through. Let's go ahead and pull the 2nd, 4th, and 5th divisions up here because we're going to use these walls. These walls have a little bit of protection from the archers outside, and that'll allow us to have some chance of pulling this off. So I got the, let's see, the 6th. The 6th we can back up. The 6th archers we can back up. Of course, you need to do this before all of your units are zerged by the enemy. In other words, you're going to have to make this decision quickly. If you don't make this decision quickly, it won't work. Now, you notice the roof back there? You can actually put units on that. This is something quite frankly, I just discovered with 10,000 hours of Bannerlord. With the Tier 3 version of this castle, you can actually use that roof. And those little rampways below us here. It's pretty nasty. All right, so my units are all kind of clustered up here tightly. You want to make sure that your units are correctly assigned. So what I'm going to actually do is assign a division and push them way back here. I'm going to put one division here on this rooftop. See how you can literally use these roofs and this whole walkway. And then we're going to get a square of infantry pushed down in the valley there that basically holds the enemy back from assailing all these troops. This huge zerg of archers and whatnot pour up here. The other thing we must do is we must defend the walls that lead up to here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put another division of infantry right there on the walls. They're going to be in a square, and I want those guys essentially prevent here. They're pushing me out of the way to get to their location. They're not very polite, but they're effective. Those guys will now slow the tide of enemy trying to get to all of our archers. You can see this square down there is actually huge. The 3rd corps, there's still 69 guys. That is because we retreated that early. Now, the 1st and 7th division are annihilated, right? The guys that were at the gate, the other archer division, those guys are destroyed because the courtyard got blown open. I would say we have about 60 or 70% of our troops left, maybe 50% for the rest of the siege. You can see the enemy's jammed up on our troops there. They're vigorously defending. We're killing our own Fiend champs. And those guys, if I put too many archers down there, they'll be vulnerable. We actually don't have as many archers as I want up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow this other division. This 4th division, we'll just borrow some of these guys. I want these guys shooting down from where I'm at. That way they're closer to the enemy. They're doing more damage. And these guys have pretty good cover here, right? You can see the enemy can't shoot our units here until they come around that corner. And by the time they come around that corner down there, they're going to be vulnerable. Now, the enemy archers are not entering. In fact, almost as soon as I said that, they entered. And you see the stall there. That was because the AI is figuring out pathfinding here. They might be routing. I think those units are just reforming, though. I've seen this kind of computer behavior before. When it's trying to solve the puzzle and it has a little bit of a setback, the AI will sort of regather all their troops. We're getting some kind of juddery gameplay here as the AI does its very best to try to figure this out. They're basically trying to solve our Rubik's Cube here. Now, they're pouring up infantry, but that's amazing, right? That's the best case scenario for us because we've got a square down here holding it, and that square there on the walls just leaves the enemy wholly exposed to our archers. Now, this division is kind of a mess. There's a lot of infantry in this division, but that's okay too. If the enemy starts zerging the walls up here, we'll be able to hold the line there with those infantrymen. And the enemy's just crammed against the wall there, getting shot to pieces. We've got about 70, 80 archers back here just working. There will be archers at some point. The enemy has Fiend champs and stuff like that. Not Fiend champs, but regular archers and crossbow. I kind of anticipated, oh, here they come. They're starting to come in the valley here and shoot at our guys. But they're exposed down there too, right? Those guys are getting scorched as they come around there. And even though they're killing guys standing here, we have all this 3rd Corps we can charge with now. Let's see if these guys can blow the enemy out the door. The enemy's in a bad way here. I just looked up at the power bar, and I think they just routed. The 3rd Corps is now bearing in on them. We can charge with this other division. The 1st division can charge, and this battle is over. All right, so perfect. I mean, it worked out. Of course, I wish it worked out previously where we were trying this with the Imperials. That's the difference between the Fiend champs and the Imperials, right? I tried these exact same tactics with the Imperials, and it did not work. I'm not saying that this is a great option, but this is an option for you with this intricate castle, right? There's all kinds of secondary, I call these secondary defenses in Bannerlord, and this is a fairly sophisticated one. I mean, it's a really good, cool defense structure. There's all these different ramps. This would be amazing for multiplayer. There's enemy troops hanging off the walls and stuff like that. So hopefully that was helpful for you fellas. We're going to continue to do this across the maps of Calradia. Again, I will try to list when there's multiple castles that follow the same model. And hopefully this helps you guys. Not hopefully, this should lead you to success in Bannerlord, right? You'll have basically your Helm's Deep where you can slaughter your equivalent orcs. All right, friends, I appreciate you fellas. You want to hit that like button on the way out. Please leave comments or requests if you have any. And I will talk to you, friends, next time.